Hey y'all, welcome back. Today, we're doing a little British nostalgia, and we're checking out 30 things only a British kid who grew up in the 70s will understand. Storyblocks Watermark.
Hello, and welcome back to the Nostalgiz Brit. Take a deep breath, close your eyes for a moment, and let's transport back. We're heading straight back to the 1970s, a time when shaggy carpets in burnt orange and avocado green were considered the absolute peak of interior design. And safety was, let's just say, very flexible. We needed an empty C90 cassette tape.
Hang on. Y'all be sure to go to British, what is this channel? The Nostalgiz Brit, and like and subscribe. I had my eyes closed, so I missed some of that. Just rewind a bit. Oh, I like the 70s aesthetic, you know? It's fun. And it's kind of interesting because you can see how it connects the 60s to the 80s, you know? I find that fascinating. Anyway, continue.
Carpets in burnt orange and avocado green were considered the absolute peak of interior design. And safety was, let's just say, very flexible. We needed an empty C90 cassette tape, a quiet street, a handful of 10p coins, and the hopeful promise that Blue Peter had something good on after school.
Blue Peter's that TV show. Y'all, we had C90 cassettes in America. That's what I would usually get. I had an 8-track tape machine, not the 8-track, like the consumer 8-track, but like you could record 8 separate tracks at a time or separately. And it's a Tascam Portastudio. Anyway, I would always get those C90 tapes. I remember those.
So, please, make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of tea, perhaps served in one of those ghastly geometric patterned mugs from the era, and let's embark on a journey through 30 things only a British kid who grew up in the 70s will understand.
How old does a British kid start drinking tea? When I was a kid, I didn't drink tea. Well, that's not true. I think the first time I really remember drinking tea as a kid was when I went to visit my aunt and uncle in Philadelphia. We went to a Chinese restaurant for the first time, and we had hot tea. Other than that, we would have sweet iced tea when my family would get together. Anyway, I don't know. It's a different thing. How old is a British kid when he starts drinking tea? Probably pretty young, I would think, right?
This is a heartfelt trip back to when everything was utterly ace. And naturally, our story begins with the glorious chaos of how we actually travelled anywhere. Forget rigid safety regulations. They honestly just hadn't arrived yet. The family car, whether it was a trusty Ford Cortina or perhaps a humble Vauxhall Viva, was less about seatbelts and more about creative seating arrangements.
Right.
In fact, the absolute VIP spot on any long journey wasn't a seat at all. It was the parcel shelf, right?
Yo, there's look at this baby. There's a baby in the back. Just laying down. You would never see that now. That is wild, isn't it? I remember riding on the bucket seats. Or not bucket seats, but it's like a bench seat, right? No seatbelt. Like seatbelts were optional. Pretty sure And I also remember riding in the back of a station wagon. My parents didn't have one. We had a Chevrolet, what was that called? Cabriolet or something like that. I don't know. But a friend of mine's parents had a station wagon. And I remember riding in the back of that station wagon. And I remember the speakers in the back, you know, like 2 speakers. And the music always sounded really good back there. Anyway, look at that baby. That baby's probably dead by now.
Any long journey wasn't a seat at all. It was the parcel shelf right behind the rear window.
Yeah.
You'd be lying up there, bouncing around freely, treating it like your own personal observation deck. It was completely insane by today's standards, but it was just normal. And
I remember sitting on that middle thing, yeah. Oh my God, so risky, right? Wow.
Somehow, despite the lack of harnesses, child seats, or anything remotely safe, we all survived the emergency stops.
There's a car seat. Man.
Our epic holiday adventures weren't cheap flights to the Mediterranean. They were long, drawn-out car journeys to the classic British seaside resorts. We went to places like Blackpool or Skegness, often under a relentlessly grey sky, eager to see the tower or build a sandcastle that the tide would inevitably destroy. The air was salty, the wind was fierce, and if you didn't get a little bit of sand and vinegar on your fish and chips, did you even go? Speaking of treats, forget fancy items.
Okay. Yeah. I had a different upbringing, but surprisingly similar. I grew up in Florida, and we would take little trips to the beach. Like drive an hour or two and you're at the beach. There weren't fish and chips. What did we have? Like a sandwich, like a tuna sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that my mom brought, you know? There weren't really places to get food along the beach back then. Florida was a different place back then. Totally different.
Ice cream sundaes. The peak of summer joy was a simple cone topped with a stick of crumbling Cadbury flake.
I've heard of these 99p. Right? Never had one. What would be my equivalent? Maybe like a rocket pop from the ice cream man? That's probably the closest thing I think.
That feeling of the chocolate instantly melting, sticking to your fingers, but tasting absolutely glorious. That sticky mess right there was the authentic flavour of a British seaside summer.
Oh, man.
And how did we get there? Before SatNav, before Google Maps, your dad wrestled with the massive paper A to Z map. He'd have to unfold that monster, covering most of the dashboard, inevitably leading to a furious, hushed argument with your mum about missing the correct motorway junction.
This is a universal memory, I think. This is not just British. Although, my dad always seemed to just know the way, you know? I don't remember him using a map.
If only they had just stopped and asked for directions. But oh no, pride prevented that classic British tragedy. If you were out on your own, the red phone box was your social network, your lifeline, and occasionally your cold metallic sanctuary. You needed your trusty pouch of 10p coins and a bit of luck that the phone hadn't been recently vandalized.
Oh, man.
That feeling of success, though, when you heard the decisive ding-ding as your coin finally dropped into the slot, suddenly you had the power to connect. And finally, the gentle...
Yeah, that would make sense. We didn't have those phones. We had, like, grungy old payphones. Actually, I don't really remember using payphones much at all as a kid.
Rhythm of the morning. Our days weren't woken by loud traffic. They were marked by the quiet rattling sound of the electric milk float pulling up to your gate. Fresh milk in heavy glass bottles with that beautiful thick layer of cream sitting right under the foil cap.
We didn't have that.
It was a peaceful, simple start to the day that has sadly vanished from our streets. Ah, the golden era of the telly. When I say 3 channels, I mean 3 channels. BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV. And here's the crucial part. You, the youngest child, were the designated remote control. You actually had to get up, walk over to the set, often a great heavy wooden box, and crank the large knob to change the channel.
That was me. I was the youngest. And when I grew up, we had 3 channels. At first, like through the 80s, we got more channels. But yeah, for us, it was ABC, NBC, CBS. That's it. I remember getting HBO in the 80s. And we had a cable box, you know? There was a big dial on it, just one big dial on the cable box. And you could turn it to, 50-something. And we went through periods of where we would pay for HBO and then not pay for HBO. But when we didn't have HBO, you could wiggle the dial and it would come in. The scrambling would go away, which was very nice.
Picture fuzzy? We all knew the solution. Give the side of the TV a firm, authoritative tap. It almost always worked.
It did.
Saturdays were the absolute pinnacle of the week, starting with the fierce TV rivalry. You had to choose. Were you a fan of the chaotic, brilliant and often messy Tiswas, which featured people getting soaking wet and the phantom flan flinger? Or did you prefer the gentler, more educational phone-in vibe and swap shop of Toy Swap?
Ooh.
Your choice of morning show revealed everything about your true character.
Huh.
And speaking of education, every 70s Brit child had attempted a make-and-do project from the legendary Blue Peter. We learned how to construct surprisingly complex models out of the most humble materials, washing up bottles, sticky back plastic, and countless empty toilet roll holders. We absolutely adored the presenters like John Nopes and his famous long-suffering sheepdog Shep. But the real treasure was...
I think British children's television on Saturday mornings was probably more educational than American, because I don't remember projects. Maybe on the weekdays, like Sesame Street, Electric Company, that kind of stuff was educational during the week, but Saturday mornings was all just brainless cartoons for me.
music. There was no Spotify, no easy download.
Right.
If you wanted your favorite song, you had to practice the delicate art of timing. You had to have your cassette tape loaded into your ghetto blaster, ready to press record just as Top of the Pops started the track. The ultimate soul-crushing tragedy, the DJ talking over the first 3 seconds of the glorious song intro.
Yeah.
It ruined the entire tape.
You know what, though? I did that, and I used to record the Rick D's Top 10. Like, same premise, but different show, of course. But, you know, you'd go back and you play the tape because you want to hear that song or those songs over and over again. But the DJ's introduction, it would become part of the song. So whenever you hear the song, you remember the DJ's voice and how he said things.
When the kids' programs ended, the adults took over. Saturday night was sacred, filled with family entertainment like the classic sketches of the Two Runnies and the sheer infectious joy of Morecambe and Wise. These were cultural events, shows everyone discussed on Monday morning. And when the night was finally over, your television screen would switch to the static test card F, featuring the famous image of the little girl Carol Hersey and her unblinking doll. That image, accompanied by the monotonous test tone, was the unmistakable universal signal. Television is closing down.
For us, there was the national anthem with a flag and then static. That's what I remember. But I rarely stayed up that late. Similar, though.
Playtime is over.
Oh, the music thing. That was always really fun. I'm an audio engineer. I love music, of course, but I remember going through my parents' records and like discovering new records. And it was like being at a music store, but it was just my parents' records, you know?
Time for bed. The 70s was an era where everything felt more tactile, even shopping. Before loyalty points, before nectar cards, we had Green Shield stamps. Your mum would bring them home from the supermarket, and the entire family would spend hours meticulously licking and sticking those tiny green stamps into the collection books.
Y'all, we had Publix stamps. Publix is a shopping center in the southeastern United States, and they would have, whenever you buy your stuff at Publix, this little printer prints out these little green stamps. Like they're about that. It's the same thing. And there'd be a book. I remember I got an alarm clock radio. It was like this big. It had wood paneling on the side, like fake wood. Same thing, though.
The excitement wasn't about the process. It was about finally filling enough books to exchange them for something truly magnificent from the catalogue. A new toaster, a kettle,
Right.
or maybe even a state-of-the-art fondue set.
Wow,
The
that's
sweets were, of course, the
That would take a
heart
lot.
of our economy. A trip to the local corner shop meant going straight to the glass counter. You didn't ask for a packet. You asked the lady behind the counter for a quarter of a pound of your chosen sweet. They were weighed out precisely on scales and poured into a little white paper bag. It felt like a truly special transaction.
Man.
The legends of the...
Yeah, we didn't have a candy store where I grew up. Me and my brother used to walk down to the local gas station and buy candy. But it was just, you know, there's like I don't know, a 5x5 rack of different candies you could buy. The smell of gasoline. Very different and not as cool experience, I can imagine. This looks like Willy Wonka.
The British sweet shop are many. We had the challenge of the sherbet fountain, the licorice stick dipped into the lemon powder, the jaw-wrenching joy of the taffy-like blackjacks and fruit salades, and the sheer explosive delight of space dust, our own version of Pop Rocks.
Yes, I had Pop Rocks.
And let's not forget the utterly bizarre yet compulsory sweet cigarettes, a true sign of coolness.
Yes. I had this. Mine looked different. It wasn't that brand, but yes. And they had the little bit of powder on them. And when you first take them out of the box and you can blow on them and it looks like smoke comes out. Yes. They didn't taste great. They tasted fine, but it wasn't about the taste.
Thirst was quenched by fizzy pop, which only tasted right when it came in a heavy, chunky glass bottle with a metal cap. And, here's the smart part, you could return the empty bottle back to the shop for a small deposit. Instant, easy pocket money for more sweets.
Right.
For the
Yeah, I used to get ices. Coca-Cola ices. That was my thing.
adults, party food was a sight to behold. It was the era of the simple cocktail stick, creating masterpieces like cheese and pineapple on a stick, meticulously stabbed into a foil-wrapped grapefruit. It was the absolute height of 70s culinary sophistication.
Wow.
But the real social hub was...
Yeah, I didn't experience that, but I love picking at stuff, you know? Like a charcuterie board, the little snacky stuff. That's a great way to eat.
Wasn't a giant out-of-town mall. Our social and shopping lives revolved entirely around the local high street. We'd spend our Saturday pocket money in the glorious chaos of Woolies. Browse the latest 45 singles at the local record shop, and nervously try on, but rarely buy, the latest flares at C&A. Looking back at the photos...
Yeah, I was a little after this time. So I grew up in the mall culture, American mall culture, Kmart. We didn't have a Walmart where I grew up, but it was that kind of idea, you know?
The fashion of the 70s was truly a crime, wasn't it? It was the decade of the flare.
Those are back in here.
Trousers were ridiculously wide, so wide you could practically hide a small pet inside them. And the shirts. Your dad's collars were huge and pointed, threatening to take flight at any moment.
Yeah.
At the time, we thought it was absolutely groovy. But looking back, we were walking optical illusions. School was a place of shared suffering, particularly in the winter. The compulsory uniform rule meant the true horror of having to wear grey shorts and your school blazer, even when there was frost and maybe even snow on the ground. Long trousers were simply not an option in primary school. We didn't have heated coats. We were just forced to be tough, or at least very, very cold.
I never had a uniform thing in school. In fact, where I grew up, it would be cold in the morning, so you'd wear jeans and take a coat. But then in the afternoon, it would be extremely hot. So, that's uncomfortable too.
The school dinner experience was another shared trauma. The canteen was noisy, smelled of boiled cabbage, and we all had to battle the dreaded lumpy custard or the oddly textured but traditional spotted dick pudding. Getting a second helping of chips was often the real victory of the day.
When it came to books, we were resourceful.
When I grew up, you either brought your own lunch or you had the big tray, and you don't get a second helping. You know what I mean?
We were required to cover our textbooks, but we used whatever scraps we could find. Pages of old newspapers, leftover birthday wrapping paper, or even scraps of that distinctive 70s wallpaper.
Yeah, I used paper shopping bags, grocery bags.
It wasn't craft, it was a humble, effective necessity. And if you needed a copy of anything, you faced the sheer frustration of carbon paper. This
Right.
thin, messy sheet produced smudged,
that's what I would
blurry,
use.
barely readable duplicates, and inevitably left your fingers stained black with ink. It was low-tech, maddening, and yet the only way to quickly copy anything.
Huh.
The final word on technology at home was the typewriter. Personal
Yes.
computers were still years away.
Right.
We had the Olivetti, or the trusty Imperial manual typewriter. The satisfying
That
clack,
looks familiar.
clack, clack sound of the keys hitting
Right.
the paper, and that triumphant ding when you reach the end of the line. That
Y'all, I used to love a typewriter. I would just play on the typewriter sometimes.
was high-tech communication. In many ways, the 70s was the era of maximum parental trust, or perhaps maximum parental indifference.
Yes.
You were allowed to roam free, spending the entire
Yeah.
day outside, exploring, playing, and having adventures.
Yeah.
There were no mobile phones, no trackers, no way for your parents to contact you. The only
Yeah.
signal you needed to know your day was over, the streetlights coming on.
Right.
You then had to execute a frantic sprint home, desperate to get back before your mum opened the front door and yelled your full name down the street.
Same experience, yo. Me and my brother and my neighborhood friends used to ride our bikes all over the place. And I heard somewhere a few years ago that over the years since this time, a kid's circumference of area where you go and you play and explore over time has gotten smaller because of safety stuff, like in the 80s, bad stuff has happened a lot. But in the 80s, in America, we had like the razor blade and an apple scare and like check the candy and all this horrible stories about things happening to children, and it kind of made parents pull their kids closer.
That was the golden rule. When we played outside, we played games like Kirby. This was a
Oh.
uniquely British street game where you threw a ball and tried to hit the exact edge of the curb on the other side of the road.
I never played that.
It required skill, a bit of luck, and total disregard for minor traffic. It was dangerous, yes, but brilliantly entertaining, and needed nothing but a ball and 2 curbs. The interior of the home was a visual spectacle. Every house seemed to follow the same color palette: deep browns, harvest golds, and burnt oranges. Your living room was likely a masterpiece of this 70s style, complete with thick, shaggy carpet that was almost impossible to clean, and
I definitely recognize this kind of decor, but I don't think my family or the families in my neighborhood really were that trendy,
large, loud, floral or geometric wallpaper. For information, we relied on simple things. If you needed to know the exact time, you didn't look at your phone. You actually dialed a number and listened to a very polite woman tell you the precise hour and minute.
I remember
At the
that.
3rd stroke, the time will be. It cost you a few pence, but it was reliable. And finally, the joy of the weekend. No 24/7 sports coverage. Football was a sacred ritual on Saturday night with match of the day. Everyone gathered to watch the highlights and argue about the referee's decisions right before we were sent to bed.
Wow, y'all. I had a surprising similar experience but it was American football, Friday night is high school football. Saturday night is college football. Sunday is professional football. Monday is professional football.
That famous theme tune is still enough to give any grown man goosebumps. The final unifying anchor of the week was the most sacred meal, the Sunday roast. Piles of tender meat, the massive puffy Yorkshire puddings, crispy roast potatoes, and a pool of thick, rich gravy. It was the comforting,
That sounds good.
delicious reason you survived the terrible fashion and the lumpy custard of the week before.
Yeah, we didn't have Sunday roast. We would sometimes have like a big dinner on Sundays, but I don't think it's anything like a British Sunday roast,
And there you have it, my friends. 30 wonderful, chaotic, brilliant things that you, a British kid of the 70s,
will never, ever forget. It was a time that was simple, free, full of questionable color choices, and defined by music that was completely unmatched. We may not have had much by modern standards, but in many ways we had everything. The freedom, the community, and a shared sense of warm, almost innocent experience. We survived the terrible fashion, the complete lack of safety laws, and the horrors of school dinner lumpy custard. And because of it, we became the excellent, resilient storytellers we are today. Now, it's your turn. What was the acest part of your British 70s childhood? Do you remember the milk float? Did you ever get into trouble playing Kirby? Share your ultimate only a Brit would understand memory in the comments section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the Nostalgia Brit bringing these brilliant memories back. See you next time, and keep that wonderful fire of nostalgia burning.
Y'all be sure to go to the Nostalgia Brit and like and subscribe. This was eye-opening because, like I said, I had a lot of the same experiences. Very similar. Just the little details are different, you know? Very interesting. And the fashion trends are the same. Similar music, probably. We're the same, but different. I guess my best memory is riding my bike and exploring around the neighborhood. That feeling of independence when you first get your bike and your parents are fine with you just riding around. That was cool. I don't think I felt that fresh and open until when I turned 16 and got my driver's license, you know? Yeah, that was probably the coolest. Anyway, well, y'all, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like and subscribe. And I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.